What's up, everybody? It's Miles Turner, the Indiana Pacers. You're listening to the Paceroos Podcast. Be sure to follow at Paceroos on Twitter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Paceroos Podcast, the only Australian NBA podcast with a bias towards the Indiana Pacers. I'm coming to you from beautiful Queenstown, New Zealand this week, so that's why it's been a little while between episodes, but they've got pretty good internet here, so I was able to watch the Dallas game as well as a couple of others from a very successful road trip. 4-1, the Pacers finished their longest road trip left remaining in the season. And Alex, we were just talking before the show, any one of us would have taken 4-1 if you told us that before the road trip started. It was a really successful week of basketball.
Yeah, 100%. I thought 3-2 would have been one of the best case scenarios, to be honest with you. But I think it's just the next man up mentality of this team. You know, we've been absolutely riddled with injuries all year long. Malcolm goes down again, unfortunately. You know, Warren missed a couple games there. Doug McDermott's been out for the last few, and they're still winning games. So that goes to show how deep this team really is. Jakar Sampson, my man, has his own dunk contest, it seems like, every game now, I swear. But he's been fantastic. And Justin, your man, I'll let you talk about him a bit later, but your man, the hype train, Edmund Sumner, he's been sensational on both ends of the floor. So, yeah, obviously that Milwaukee loss, it looks bad being a 19-point game, but, you know, they competed. They came back from 22. I think we might have cut it. I think we might have tied it during the third, and then Giannis just doing Giannis things. So, yeah, it's been good to see the all-round team play of the Pacers. And also, I just want to shout out Domantas Sabonis, who today just broke the record for most double-doubles in a single season. So there you go.
Yeah, it's been brilliant to see Domas be so consistent throughout the season. He's really been, you know, the anchor of this team, just keeping it really consistent every single night. You know exactly what you're going to get from Domantas Sabonis, and that's what you need from your all-star. But, you know, Alex, you touched on it there, and Justin, I'll let you finally talk about Hype Train now. But how important is it, and what does it say about guys like Edmund Sumner and guys like Jakar Sampson that they can come in after a relatively small, you know, role through the first 50, 60 games of the season, and they can contribute off the bench with very little sort of practice and very little ability to be able to get into the game shape. They've both been brilliant and keys to this team's success. And, you know, you must be stoked, particularly for your man, Ed.
Yeah, you two know I've been a big advocate of his since probably the start of the season. Obviously, he's been through injury trouble and he's just really never had a fair crack at it. Obviously, with the injury to Brogdon and Lamb, he's getting extended minutes now. And to me, he's shown a bit more than Aaron Holiday has the past few games. To me, Edmund Sumner, he's not someone you're going to look at the box score and go, oh, wow, he played fantastic, because he's someone who dives on the court, gets the loose ball. He might do a really good assist or, you know, just get deflections. He's a real all-round player. So, and, you know, he's got a great nickname. He's the hype train because when he gets on, he's just got energy for the team. He's just an instant spark plug. So, yeah, for myself, Alex, you mentioned last week on the podcast that this is kind of a make or break for Aaron Holiday, and we're, 3 or 4 games in, and to me, Edmund Sumner's shown more.
Yeah, he's been brilliant the last few games, and obviously Aaron Holiday hasn't. And it's been a season-long discussion between the three of us. And Alex, you may have really flipped your opinion over this road trip to more of the hype train and less of Aaron Holiday. Are you a full convert to the hype train?
Join me, Alex. Join me.
Yeah, look, I think right now with Brogdon out, you still have to have Holiday as a starter. I'm not saying that Sumner's going to replace him as a starter, but if when fully healthy, I will give the backup minutes to Edmund Sumner. I will say that much. I just think I just think, obviously, I think Aaron's ceiling is high. He's just been way too inconsistent this year, especially when you're going into the playoffs. You can't afford to have a guy like Aaron go, 1 from 5 or 1 from 6, especially if, you know, he's not bringing the defensive intensity and length that Ed brings. So, Justin, I was in the middle probably the last week, but now I'm leaning more towards Sumner. So I'm on a bit on your side now. What about you, Adam?
It's completely fair. I mean, look, Aaron Holiday's had an up and down season. There have been some real bright spots. That game against Brooklyn that he started earlier in the season was the big highlight, where he got a double-double and pretty much led the team to victory that night. And however, it's been few and far between. And we know that he's young. We know that he's raw. We know that he didn't get much of a chance to develop last year, and there was a lot of ripples about him not being happy with the amount of playing time he was getting. And this year, it's being consistent toward the start of the season, but consistently toward this middle and end part of the season. He's had more minutes. He's had the opportunity to run with the starters a lot more and play with better players around him, but he hasn't taken that opportunity. So I can completely understand choosing Edmund Sumner over Aaron Holiday at this point, because Edmund Sumner's playing better basketball overall. But I will still die on the hill that Aaron Holiday has more talent and a higher ceiling than Edmund Sumner. I think you do need to have a look at what you have over the rest of the season with both of those guys. And then you've got to make a choice at the end of the season, because, you know, both of those guys are coming up to a point where you can sign them to multi-year extensions for bigger money than they're on now, because they're on relatively low money around, that minimum to low rookie scale salary. And you're going to have to, at the end of next season, make a decision. And I feel like you have to make that decision a year early, and you're going to have to choose one of them. And the one with more trade value, more currency at the moment, is probably Aaron Holiday. So that's probably where you'd lean. Justin Holiday is going to get more money this summer. You won't need to worry about separating the brothers necessarily. So for me, I love Aaron Holiday, but I think this summer's probably time to have the conversation about letting one of him or Edmund Sumner go and trying to get something back for a good young player. Justin, what do you think?
Yeah, completely agree. And I agree with your take, Alex, as well. Aaron Holiday does have a higher ceiling than Edmund Sumner. He does. He's got that star potential that everyone keeps raving about, but we are yet to see it. This year, for me, I know I'm harsh on him. I'm a really big critic of his, and he hasn't shown much this season. Like, he had that good 3 or 4 game spurt when we beat the Raptors at home in that overtime game. And I think the game before that, I forgot who we played, but he may have scored, 20 or so points, and he hit clutch shots. But apart from that, he's shown nothing to me. And I know that might sound harsh, but from the love he gets from the fan base, which is fantastic, always never going to hate on the fan base loving a player, because that's what we want. But he really hasn't shown the love he's received. So, for me, I'm happy to look elsewhere in the offseason.
I want to talk about another guard on the team that's previously been an All-Star. You might have heard of him, Victor Oladipo. Played against Dallas today, and I want to highlight not his whole game, but his fourth quarter. 8 of the Pacers' last 10 points. The other bucket was an assist to Domas Sabonis. He was getting to his spot on the floor, which is just to the right of the elbow, and hitting a lot of mid-range jumpers, which, is at the moment what he's comfortable with. We've seen intermittently his ability to drive to the basket sort of coming back, and his confidence in his ability to finish is coming back. He's getting stuffed every now and again, like he was, I think, against Porzingis late in the Dallas game. But it was really great for me to see some late game scoring and for him to really put the team on his back in that fourth quarter offensively. I mean, Domas has obviously been the team's best offensive player this season, but with TJ Warren fouling out, Vic took the opportunity to take the keys back. And it was really great for me to see that, because it means that there is that old Victor Oladipo there. We saw a flash of it, and I think it will come back. And I think it just lends itself to Alex, what we've been saying all season long, which is it's going to take probably the rest of this season for Vic to get back to where he was, or somewhere close to where he was. And we may not see that until the start of next season. But I think, I don't know whether you agree, but today's fourth quarter just gave me a glimmer that that's going to come back sometime very soon.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it. It was almost like a 2018 Victor Oladipo performance, wasn't it, in that fourth quarter? And I think when he's at his best, he isn't rushing. I think sometimes he runs down the floor and just his first instinct is to take a deep three, or, a three with like 20 seconds left in the shot or something. I think when he's reading the game, when he's running that pick and roll with Domas, he is borderline unstoppable. And you said he's not going to be All-Star Vic till next season. There's no question about that. But I think we've seen over the past couple of weeks that he's been getting better every game he plays in. Every time he's on the court, he's getting better. He's turning the ball over a little bit, but that's to be expected. And I still want him taking these shots. I've seen a lot of people critique him for chucking up shots, but I would rather he takes them now than be passive. So, I mean, I'm fine with him taking, 12, 13 shots a game. But I think for him it's just finding a balance between pushing the pace and then running the Pacers style, which is a bit slower. And him and Domas in that pick and roll, they're looking better and better every game. So, yeah, I think it's exciting times for the Pacers. And come playoffs, he said it today in a post-game interview, coming playoffs, if we're fully healthy, we're going to be a tough out.
And you touched on it there. I mean, it's unfortunate that Domas needs a new pick and roll partner, because we know that Malcolm Brogdon and Domas have been so effective this season in the pick and roll. They were early in the season. Media pundits were calling it one of the best combinations in the league in terms of ability to just get 2 points on the board. And it's really unfortunate to see Malcolm Brogdon go out for another long-term injury. It doesn't seem to be related to his previous injuries. We've talked a lot about his bad luck, Justin, and this is just yet another example. And I think the concern that I have is that it's just yet another couple of weeks where he and Victor Oladipo don't get to gel, don't get to work together in the backcourt, don't get to put in that time and get that time together to form the backcourt that, the Indiana Pacers fans think could be one of the best in the league. Are you concerned about, obviously, the impact that these injuries will have on next season and the amount of time that it will take these two guys to gel?
100%. It was the first thing I thought about when I saw the injury. It's not about, oh no, Brogdon's going to be out against Dallas in a few more games. It's how that's going to impact the playoffs this season. We're essentially going to go into the playoffs with no continuity at all. I think I'd love to know the minutes our starting five has played together this year. And yeah, going into next year, it's like a reset. You remember at the start of the year, Kevin Pritchard had put this season down to 3 phases. Without Vic, and then incorporating Vic, and then once Vic's 100% healthy. Well, Wes just started phase 2, really, and we've just lost Brogdon. Yep. So we're nearly
phase 3 this season.
Exactly right.
Getting to phase 3.
Yeah. So we're not going to get to phase 3. We're nearly at phase 1 again. So, and this is my big concern. I don't want to bring it up and go back and forth, but I think Nate McMillan's done a good job. I mean, you talk about Brogdon and Jeremy Lamb out the whole year.
You're not allowed to talk good about Nate McMillan, Justin. Come on now. We have to slander him.
Yes, I know. And yeah, you just think I posed a question to someone on Twitter earlier today and said, let's just scratch Brogdon, Lamb and Oladipo. Let's just act as if they were all healthy this year. We've had no injury trouble, fully healthy roster. What seed did you hope for the Pacers to get? And I'm awaiting the answer because we're 5th seed right now. We're 2 games back on the 4th seed home court. I don't know what the expectation was, but I'm sure as hell happy with the way Nate McMillan's coached his team. And yeah, he's got, faults. Everyone does. But the national media have come out on, TNT and ESPN and said he's in the coach of the year running with the likes of, Nick Nurse. So, I hate to bring it up again, but for some reason I keep on getting tweets saying fire Nate. And, you see we get a 4-1 road record and just get a massive win off Dallas, and there's not one Nate mention ever.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I mean, I remember early on in this show we talked about potentially finishing top 4, how that was going to be a really positive result for this team. And at the moment, you look at it, we're only a few games out of 4th, with all of the games missed to injury across the year. You look at the development of Domas Sabonis this season, you look at the development of TJ Warren into a 2-way player as opposed to just a pure scorer. You look at the performances of bench players like Justin Holiday and TJ McConnell, even Jakar Sampson when he's had the opportunity to play. There are many, many bright spots across this roster. And just because you don't like the way that Miles Turner's being used doesn't mean that you should fire the coach. It's pretty ludicrous to me to draw that sort of bow to say that there's one player on this team that you don't like how he's used. And I would argue that down the stretch of this 5-game road trip, there was no player more important than Miles Turner. And he was consistently in big spots. He came up big time and time again on both ends. And, it is ridiculous to me to consider that he's not potentially being used properly, because I would argue that over this 5-game road trip, he's been used exactly how he should be down the stretch with Domas Sabonis. They've been playing down the stretch, which earlier in the season Nate was hesitant to do. He's clearly got more trust in the two of them being able to play together down the stretch. That might be out of necessity with Lamb out, with Brogdon out, but regardless, it's paid dividends. We've won basketball games off the back of Domas and Miles being on the court together when it matters. and when the game was in the balance. So,
well, Adam,
Alex, yeah,
I was just going to quickly mention if we all woke up tomorrow morning and the Pacers had fired Nate McMillan, I don't think people realize the Pacers would be the laughing stock of the NBA. Like, do you know how many reporters and fans would absolutely crucify that decision? So I just wanted to let that.
You see the reaction from Kenny Atkinson getting fired though. Like, people didn't understand what that was all about. So imagine if the Pacers, who are 15 games above 500, fired their coach. So
yeah,
thought the Earth was round. That's the problem.
Good call.
Anyway, we'll get away from that Nets tire fire, and we'll get back onto the Pacers. But yeah, I think it's ridiculous to think that Nate hasn't done a good job with this roster. It's clearly a good roster. We knew that, but at the same time, with the injuries that have been had, with the inconsistency, it is clear that Nate McMillan prepares his players to go and win basketball games. That may not translate to playoff success. We don't know that yet because we're not in the playoffs. But in the regular season right now, we are performing far better than our injury list has any right. It gives us any right to perform. 39-25, I think we are right now. That's a great record. I would have taken that at the start of the season with a fully healthy roster. I would have thought, yeah, okay, that's about right. So, Alex, it just underlines that it doesn't. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. It doesn't matter what player you are. It doesn't matter what record you have. It doesn't matter how well you play. There will always be detractors. There will always be haters. There will always be people who aren't a fan of what you do and will pick holes in everything, won't there?
Absolutely. And I think, Justin, you talked about it a little bit, that the thing that gets to me is that it's all well and fine. You can criticize players. Justin, you criticize Aaron Holiday more than anyone I know, but when he plays well, you're the first to compliment him as well.
Facts.
You're the first to say, you know what? Aaron played well today. So for me, the biggest thing is, and this happens with, obviously, I get a lot of mentions about Miles Turner, as you all probably know, but this is what gets me so worked up, is that if you're going to criticize a player or a coach, as much as some of these people are, then you should be the first person to congratulate them, or you say, you know what? Yeah, I was wrong. You did well today, or that win was partly your doing. But yeah, enough ranting. I want to talk about something positive, boys, because I woke up this morning.
Is it time?
To one of the greatest notifications I have seen this year. Shams dropped an absolute bomb on us, and we might be bringing back Lance, make him dance. What are your reactions, boys?
I was so excited. I was obviously New Zealand's a couple hours behind you guys, or a couple hours in front. So I woke up before you.
Messaged us at 5 a.m.
Just at 5.
Which I can tell you right now, I was not awake.
Yeah, no, I didn't expect you to be awake for many hours, Alex. But it was great. I mean, we spoke about it. We've spoken about it several times over the course of the last couple of months, and we've said that whilst we'd love to see Lance in the team, we understand if it doesn't happen. If it doesn't happen, that's okay. But it would be great to have him around this team, just for the morale boost, just for the antics and the theatrics and the positivity and the swagger that he brings to this team. And has brought to this team for many years. And Justin, you're probably the biggest Lance fan I know. And this must delight you that we're considering bringing Born Ready back into the fold.
Yeah, I messaged my dad, my brother, because they all love Lance. So, it's big news. And I was thinking on the way to work this morning, like, Reggie Miller's obviously the GOAT. No one's in his territory. Then as a favourite player, I'm not saying talent-wise, but it's close for me with Danny Granger and Lance Stevenson. And that's, Lance isn't as talented. He's not even in the same pool as those other two players. But what he brings to Indiana, you kind of got to be a Pacer fan to know. Like, if you're a casual NBA fan and you saw Shams' tweet, you'd keep scrolling without thinking, wouldn't you? But to a Pacer fan, we know the energy. We know what he's going to bring to this team. You can imagine that first game back. He's going to get the crowd absolutely lit. I love Lance. I'll be a fan of his till I die. And I'm so excited. Let's hope, once we release this podcast, he's signed, sealed, and delivered. And he can hopefully make a strong push for this team in the playoffs.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of negativity on Twitter around it. I've seen a great deal of positivity, which is great. But, I mean, look, I can understand fans being a little annoyed or frustrated if Lance comes back in because they want a guy like Aaron Holiday or Edmund Sumner to get minutes. There's nothing to say that Lance is coming in to play significant minutes. we don't know what Lance's role will be. And to that, I would just say, wait and see. If you want Edmund Sumner to get minutes and he's showing that he can be trusted, then there is no way that Nate McMillan is going to play Lance Stevenson over Edmund Sumner. And I respect Lance. I like Lance. But if Lance turns into the greatest bench guy, towel waver in the league, then I'm okay with that too. Just having this guy's energy around the team, having him come in as a victory cigar if we manage to get a blowout. Like, to be honest, I'm happy with that role. I'm happy if he starts. I'm happy with just about anything at this point, because I know that whatever role he plays, he will play it to the very best of his ability. He'll love the fans. He'll give it 110% every second he's out on the floor, and he will do something memorable. And ultimately, basketball is about having fun. You want to win games. You want to have fun. Lance Stevenson helps your team win by the morale that he gives out around your team and around the teammates, but he also makes the game incredibly fun. And Alex, isn't that kind of why we're all here?
That is exactly right. And I don't think anyone has more fun playing basketball than Lance Stevenson does. He just absolutely lives for it, and I can't even imagine. But you know what I was just thinking? Imagine his first game back was with no crowd. Imagine because of the coronavirus, he was playing in front of no fans. That would be absolutely shattering, because I don't know if you guys saw LeBron James's comments going around the other day, but I just think it's a bit ridiculous. I think
it won't happen.
You would hope not, but just in case, if Lance is playing, you have to it would be sold out. You would have to think, and how about his jerseys? You would have to think that his jerseys would be absolutely selling like hotcakes, because he is just, outside of the 10% crowd that doesn't want him here, I think 90% of the people would just be absolutely thrilled to have him back in the Pacers uniform. I know all three of us would be. So hopefully, as you guys said, hopefully when we wake up tomorrow, hopefully we get that notification that he's signed.
You only have to remember the ovation that he got a couple of weeks ago when he was introduced to Bankers Life Fieldhouse, and the reaction from the fans was unbelievable. It's clear that he's beloved in Bankers Life Fieldhouse. As a guy that's attended a lot of those games, Justin, you know how beloved Lance is and how much everyone loves what he brings and the energy and the love that he has for the fans. And it's really genuine, which in a lot of situations in professional sports, there's a lack of that genuine connection between fan and player. And Lance is a guy that has always seemed super genuine in every interaction that he's ever had with the fans in Indiana and in Bankers Life Fieldhouse. And that's, I think, what makes him so special. I mean, a question to you, what role do you see Lance filling this season if he's signed for the last couple of months? What role would you be happy with him filling, and what role do you see him filling for this team?
Well, I think you just quickly you picked the perfect word for that, Adam, and that's genuine. Because like you mentioned, with fans, some players like that, they might just put it on for the camera. Then behind the scenes, they're a bit, maybe quiet, or they don't really care about the fans. But Lance was genuine. As I've mentioned before, he was the closest Pacer player 5-6 years ago to all of the fans. Maybe Roy Hibbert with the fan section, but you ask anyone in that Area 55 section who they love the most apart from Hibbert and who showed them the most love, and it was Lance. He literally knew some fans by name. So just want to give a quick shout out to Lance there. He really does care about Indiana fans. It's not just for show. And I'm sure anyone listening to this would agree with that. So to your question anyway, Adam, look, I kind of look at it like, was it 2 years ago when he signed with us late, and he went into that Cavs series? That's probably what I'm hoping for. Maybe that sixth man who can come in, and although we're not going to match up with a LeBron in the first round, can he be an instigator against Jimmy Butler? You imagine Lance and Jimmy Butler going at it.
That would be fantastic.
There's going to be some tech fouls there. We can already
double
tell.
ejections.
Even just get him in the game to get a Jimmy Butler ejected.
And Lance would do that.
Go Lance.
He would do that within a heartbeat. So I'm really looking forward to him coming in the playoffs and bringing that maybe a bit of Frank Vogel basketball back, bit of that smash mouth basketball we all love.
I think he can really target those emotional players on opposition teams, guys like Marcus Smart, guys like Jimmy Butler, guys that wear their heart on their sleeve just like he does, and he can kind of goad them into some techs and goad them into some flagrants and some little scuffles. And the thing is that Lance, to his credit, for all that we say about him, wouldn't be one of the best 5 players on the floor, but he could potentially take away one of the 5 best players on the floor for the opposition, and that could be just as important as anything that one of our starters can do on the night. I think it's exciting, it's fun. I think it would be great to see Lance Stevenson back in a Pacers uniform, and I'd have to think very, very hard about whether to go onto PacersTeamStore.com and pony up the $110 for a Lance jersey.
I'll be there.
That's for sure. Yeah, I'm sure you will be, mate. I'm sure you will be. So, look, we look forward now to the next slate of games. Pacers have actually coming into some tough opponents, but at the same time, a home-heavy schedule. We've got 4 of the next 5 games at home. We start off with Boston at home, then Philadelphia away, then Golden State, Miami, Cleveland, and Phoenix at home. So a couple of playoff teams. 3 out of the 6 teams we're playing are playoff teams. The other 3 are well out of contention and won't make it. Guys, coming up to the Boston game, we obviously had a really strong victory against Boston earlier in the season, arguably one of our best wins of the season. Based on the injuries that we have, Alex, do you see a competitive game against Boston? What are your expectations going into that game?
I think that's going to be a massive one. Like you said, we beat them last time in Indy, and I don't think they're going to want to get beaten twice, especially the way they lost today. I don't know if you guys saw it, but Kemba Walker got his pocket picked at the end of the game and Schroeder hit the game-winning layup. So, they're coming off a really tough loss, and I think Jaylen Brown is set to return as well. So even added firepower there. I feel like he always kills us in Banker's life. It's going to be a tough one, man. I think it's going to be a big test for the Pacers. Hopefully, Doug McDermott can return because him and Justin Holiday were massive in that game. I remember they hit a bunch of threes. But it's this home stretch. You really got to. I mean, I would be inclined to say you probably want to win 4 out of the next 6, if not 5. I think with Philly being injured, that Heat game coming up as well. I know we're all excited for that one, but you play a deflated Warriors team, a deflated Cavs team, and then the Suns. I'm hoping the Pacers can pull out. I'm being optimistic here about 5 of the next 6 games, and I think they're gonna beat Boston. I think they're gonna win it.
Look, that'd be a huge result for a couple of reasons. Firstly, any win against a playoff team in the East is huge. But you just look at Boston's record right now. We're 3.5 games out of Boston. So if we can pull back a game and get to 2.5 games out of Boston, that's really achievable heading into the end of the season. I think we play them at least twice to finish the season. So we've got a couple of opportunities to get up and potentially leapfrog them. We're only 2 games back at Miami as well, who will play again. In what's slated to be a huge game based on the TJ Warren, Jimmy Butler altercations previously. But I think that the sleeper game there is we've got to take care of business against a really struggling Philadelphia team that's without its 2 All-Stars. We've got to consolidate the 5th seed. We're 1 game up on Philly, and we can win the season series, and we can put a couple of games on them for 5th as it stands. So it's a really, really good opportunity to consolidate that seed. And once you consolidate the 5th seed, you can start to look at the next team above you, which is Miami. You've got the opportunity to get a game up on them on the 21st of March. So, and you also play them in April as well. So you've got a couple of opportunities against Boston, a couple of opportunities against Miami. No excuses for schedules being favourable or unfavourable because you have the opportunity to knock off the 2 teams that are directly above you. And I think, we've spoken about it before. I think the most advantageous seeds right now in the East are the 2nd and 3rd seed because, Justin, no one wants to see Giannis in the 1st or 2nd rounds if they can avoid it.
Yeah, that's very true. And I want to get you both your opinions on. I'm going to change the subject a bit here, but let's just say Indiana play Boston in the 1st round and Philly play Miami. One word, no what ifs with health injury. Who wins that Miami Philly series?
Man. Right now, I'll go Miami. It's a tough
Philly.
one.
Philly? Yeah, it's a tough one. Like, I was having a conversation with someone, and to me, it's such a flip of the coin. But you'd say that's maybe where the playoffs are headed. I'm still skeptical on if we can't get that 4th seed. Is it better coming 6th? Although I would rather play Miami in the 1st round than Boston. Yeah. It's just like you mentioned, Adam, that 2nd round going against Giannis, like, man, to be honest, at this stage, we'd be lucky to pull out a game. So would you rather try and battle and just hopefully get past the first round and then you avoid Milwaukee, or would you want the higher chance of like getting past the first round to then face Milwaukee? It is intriguing, and something I'm not totally sure where I want the Pacers to finish yet.
And look, I want to be clear, no disrespect to Toronto Raptors. I mean, we would go into that series as a heavy underdog, and deservedly so. Toronto's been magnificent. I love it when a team loses a star but potentially plays just as hard, or if not harder, in their absence, and has a sort of an FU response to that they're every bit as good as they were last year record-wise, and they've been magnificent. And I would, not like our chances against Milwaukee or Toronto at this stage unless we had a fully healthy, fully cohesive roster. But, I would much rather play Toronto, and I would be much more confident that we can take a couple of games off them than I would be Milwaukee. I mean, we've gone up against Milwaukee with Giannis, three times this season, and we've struggled in all of those games. The only game we won was that pre-All-Star break game where we smashed them, but they didn't have Giannis. So it's clear that if they have Giannis, we're going to struggle, it should be no spoiler to anyone, given that Giannis is the reigning MVP, and that's probably leading into the next topic I want to talk to you guys about, this sudden narrative that LeBron James has either taken over the MVP race, or it's a two-horse race between Giannis and LeBron. I've got a pretty strong opinion on this, and I read a really great tweet earlier today that was saying that early in the season we were talking about, Giannis versus Luka, and then it was Giannis versus Harden, and now it's Giannis versus LeBron. So it's really clear who the MVP is to me, because it's always been Giannis versus someone. Giannis has put up historic numbers. He's been unbelievable all season. His team have the best record in the NBA for the reason that he plays for them. And, Alex, I'll go to you first for this, but I think the anyone who thinks that Giannis isn't the MVP, they haven't been watching the NBA this season.
Well, it's recency bias at its finest, isn't it? And
yeah.
I think it's also, look, I know we hate the term small market, but at the end of the day, that's what it is. LeBron, who does he play for? The biggest market in the entire NBA. His games are on national media all the time. So, guys like Skip Bayless are going to talk about him.
Bleacher Report.
Shannon Sharp. Yeah, Bleacher Report's going to tweet about him 50 times a day. I mean, so, look, I think we all agree that, for me anyway, Giannis is unanimous MVP. And I also want to add on that Anthony Davis leads the Lakers in almost every statistical category outside of assists. So, yes, LeBron is having an incredible season, and I'm not trying to take away from what he's doing, but Giannis is absolutely putting that team on his back. And I would argue that, for me, Giannis is the defensive player of the year as well. So, when you factor in that one, I think it's a no-brainer, and I think it's just recency bias in the national media, feeding into what LeBron's selling, and it's the Lakers, isn't it? If he didn't play for the Lakers, I don't know if that would be the narrative.
I'm with you. I mean, he's arguably the defensive player of the year. I would say that it's was probably between him and a guy like Anthony Davis. If they were both healthy, Davis may squeak past him because of games played, which is a funny sentence to say, given that Anthony Davis was injury prone up until this season when he started playing for the Lakers. Not saying anything. It's just all of a sudden he's suddenly able to get through a season. But Giannis probably deserves the MVP, probably deserves the Defensive Player of the Year, and for some reason he's been able to take his game to another level this season. And Justin, after last year, I didn't even think that was possible, and he has. He's been just flat out unbelievable.
Yeah, I completely agree with a lot of your takes there by both of you. Like, definitely Alex about the small market thing. We'll play devil's advocate a bit. I mean, LeBron's been amazing at 35 years old. That game against Milwaukee on Saturday, Australia time, he carried the Lakers. AD did nothing. Giannis was absolutely torching AD, and then you actually saw LeBron say, this is my time. He went and guarded Giannis, and he was scoring on Giannis on the offensive end. I'm just talking about that match, but the MVP race is over. Giannis has got that in the bag. I think the media always want to have, like you mentioned, Adam, they always want to have, it's a battle. It's a race between two. But it is over. I don't think Giannis will be a unanimous MVP by any stretch. I think there will be people that vote for LeBron, but Giannis is the MVP. But LeBron, with all as Pacer fans, probably followed his career more closely than the average NBA fan. And I'm incredibly impressed what he's put out this season, and it's great to see him be more humble. The one thing I'll dig about LeBron is stop using the hashtag washed king.
That is the worst narrative of the entire
no one
NBA
ever
season.
called you washed up, brother.
It should be washed Chris Paul. That should be the narrative. Chris Paul.
No one ever called him washed up. Obviously, there was chatter about his defensive efforts last year, but no one ever called him washed up. Everyone knows he's one of the best players ever. But a little side note there for you, LeBron, if you're listening.
And just touch on what you just referred to there, Alex. Shouts to the OKC Thunder for firstly taking a game off Boston today. Thank you very much for that in the race for that third seed. But unbelievable showing by the Thunder this season for a team that traded away its 2-star players for about 58 draft picks in the summer. And, Chris Paul was washed up apparently, and Gallinari was trade bait, and SGA was going to be good, but he was 2 years away. And Steven Adams, no one knew whether he was good or not yet or still. They've been unbelievable. I mean, they're currently the 5th seed. They're half a game in front of the Rockets, which is crazy to say as well. The fact that OKC are in front of the team that they traded Westbrook to is funny to me, and I hope it continues. But, it just shows that if you put together a team of savvy veterans who know how to play the game, want to win, they play the game the right way, and OKC's been able to do that in a similar way, and it feels very Pacers-y, the fact that they've been able to just put together a collection of veterans who people undervalued, and Justin, they've been unbelievable this season, and I know you watch a lot of games around the league, and have also been pretty impressed by the Thunder.
Oh, very impressed. I think, like we mentioned before the show when we were having a little talk, which we usually do, I think come playoff time is going to be different for them. I'd be extremely, to another level impressed if they can win a series. But yeah, they've been really impressive. I think Dennis Schroeder has been, maybe the 6th man of the league, which is fantastic for him. And Chris Paul's obviously turned back the clock. So they've just got an all-round good unit, which is, I love seeing teams like that. If they get rorted by a star, Paul George, it is good to see them still performing and not bottoming out. And I think Pacers and OKC have some similarities where they don't like tanking. They like performing for a fan base. That's a small market team. So, I really like seeing OKC do well.
Last question for you guys. Race for the 8th seed in the West. You've got Memphis on 32 and 32. 4 games back, New Orleans and Sacramento. Half game back, Portland. Another half game back, the Spurs. They're probably the 4 that are within striking distance. Can any of those teams catch Memphis? If so, who and why? Alex?
Man, I really want the Pelicans to win it just for the entertainment factor alone, but I don't see any of them catching the Grizzlies. I just think that 4 game back, it doesn't seem like a lot. Like to the Pacers, 4 games back probably might not seem like a lot, but for these teams who are 8-9 games below 500, that's a long stretch to come back from. Zion versus LeBron would be amazing in my opinion, but I think Ja Morant, he's been the rookie of the year for sure, and he's going to lead that Grizzlies team to the 8th seed in my opinion. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be a boring season. I would be surprised if the Grizzlies steal a game. I don't think they will, but it'll be good for him. And I like that team. I like him. I like that young core. So, yeah, I think it'll be the Grizzlies, but it'll be a boring first round.
Justin?
Well, Steph Curry has come back. No, I'm joking. They're long
He's
gone.
won their last 20 games.
Yeah. So I know it was very good seeing Steph Curry back. He just changed that whole atmosphere of that game, and Golden State have been terrible to watch all year, but watching him was awesome. But I'd love to see Pelicans, like you mentioned, Alex. I'm just going to roll with Pelicans. They are 4 games behind with only about 18 or 19 games left, so it's going to be extremely difficult. But, they've been one of the hottest teams in the league currently. And, yeah, I'd love to see Zion and Lonzo Ball and Ingram versus the Lakers. They could take Lakers to 6 or 7, I think.
That'll be competitive.
Wow.
I reckon it will be, yeah.
I think they could pinch 2 home games and take them to 6. 7's a big call, but yeah, I don't know. You'd say probably Memphis, and Lakers would win that, probably a sweep. So, how about you, Adam?
I'm all over the Pelicans. They're the most fun team to watch in the league for me. They play Sacramento and Memphis twice this month as a schedule quirk. So they could get 2 games back on Memphis over the next couple of weeks, and they could put some distance between themselves and the Kings. So I'm firmly on the Pelicans train. I sent a message to a mate earlier in this week saying, give me a 25-game Pelicans-Lakers series and I would watch it. I think it'd be incredibly entertaining. Zion is unbelievable. He's only going to get better. Nothing against Memphis, who have played really hard this season and deserve to be in that 8th spot right now. But I hope the Pelicans get it, because I think Pelicans-Lakers would be a more entertaining first-round series than Memphis-Lakers would be. I think it'd go more than 4 games, whereas I think the Lakers would sweep the Grizzlies at this stage. That about wraps it up for us. I think we'll come to you after the next 2 games against Boston and Philadelphia. Alex, you've already put yourself out there and said that we're going to beat Boston. I take it you think we're going to beat Philly and go 2-0?
We're going to go 5 out next 6, Adam, and the only game we'll lose... Actually, you know what? Screw it. We're going to go 6-0, mate.
Wow. Justin, we win in both the next 2?
I want some of your cordial, Alex. I want to drink in that. But I reckon we'll go 1-1.
Too many Canadian clubs, mate.
Yeah, you legend. I reckon 1-1. That Boston, it's always tough playing a team off a bad loss. So 1-1. That Philadelphia lost to Golden State. That Philadelphia look awful. I've mentioned that for months. You guys will back me up on that. We have to beat Philly.
Yeah, I'm one of the few that thinks that I love the Indy-Boston matchup. That was until Jason Tatum leapt up to another level the last few weeks. Unfortunately, that's kind of put a spanner in my plans. But I still think we match up okay. I still think that the 2 big men are gelling really well together. They're playing down the stretch. They're learning how to play together, and they're optimizing both of their strengths. So I'm going to go 2-0. I think we can beat Boston with the 2 big guys. I think they're going to have a statement game. Vic's going to hit a big shot at the end. So my prediction is 2-0 against Philly and Boston, and we'll come to you after those games. Thanks so much for being with us from New Zealand and Melbourne. Once again, this has been the Paceroos. Thanks, guys.